Have you ever, quickly Googled something, or maybe more recently, just asked an AI chatbot for a quick summary,
Oh, definitely.
and then, like, a few hours later, you realize you barely remember what you actually read?
Yeah, that feeling is familiar. Information overload, maybe.
Exactly, that feeling of stuff just slipping away, even though you technically consumed it, it's pretty common now, right?
It really is.
So today we're doing a deep dive into something really fascinating, maybe even a little unsettling.
Hmm.
It's about the cognitive cost of relying on large language models, LLMs, like ChatGPT, especially when it comes to learning.
Ah, okay. The impact on our brains.
Yeah, our mission today is to unpack what really happens inside our heads and, to our actual learning process when we start offloading our thinking to AI.
And what's great about our source today is that it goes beyond just looking at the AI's output. We're
Oh.
digging into a really pivotal study.
Which one?
It's from MIT and some other institutions called Your Brain on ChatGPT, Accumulation of Cognitive Debt when Using an AI Assistant for Essay Writing Tasks.
That sounds pretty direct.
It is. And they use some really cutting-edge methods. We're talking electroencephalography, EEG, to measure brain activity directly,
Wow, okay.
plus natural language processing, NLP, to analyze the essays themselves, and they did in-depth interviews with the participants, too.
So a really comprehensive look.
Exactly. It's looking at the whole human-AI interaction,
Yeah.
focusing not just on the essay produced, but what happens to you, the person using the tool.
Okay, let's step into the lab then. How did they actually set this study up?
Well, they recruited 54 university students and postdocs, aged between 18 and 39.
Right.
And the task seems simple enough. Write essays on classic SAT topics, things like loyalty, happiness, choices, courage. You get the idea.
Standard essay prompts?
Pretty standard, yeah.
Huh?
But they only had 20 minutes.
Oh, okay, that's tight.
Yeah, and the real genius, I think, was in how they divided them into groups with different tools.
Yeah.
Or, well, no tools at all for one group.
Ah, okay. Tell me about the groups.
So the experimental design was quite clever. 3 distinct groups. First, the LLM group. They could only use OpenAI's GPT-4o. That was their sole resource.
Nothing else. No Google?
No other browsers, no external info, just the AI.
Okay. Group 2.
Then you have the search engine group. They could use any website they liked. Google was the main one, obviously, but absolutely no LLMs.
Got it. Searching, but no chatbots.
Exactly. And finally, the purists, you could say, the brain-only group.
No tools at all.
None whatsoever, just their own knowledge, relying entirely on what was already in their heads.
Wow, that sounds like a real test of, well, just thinking.
It really was. And it wasn't just a one-time thing either.
Oh.
The study went on for 4 months.
Ah,
Participants did 3 sessions staying in their assigned group.
so they could see how things changed over time. Habits developing, maybe?
Precisely. Not just a snapshot, but how things evolved.
Okay, but you mentioned 4 sessions. What was the 4th one?
Session 4. This is where it gets really interesting. It was optional, but it was kind of the twist.
A twist. How so?
Participants switched groups. The original LLM users. They became the LMN to brain group. Suddenly, no tools.
Whoa, okay. Cold turkey.
Pretty much. And the original brain-only users. They became the brain to LLM group. Now they got to use the AI.
Fascinating. So seeing what happens when you take the tool away or give it to someone who's used to working without it.
Exactly. And get this, they wrote on topics they had already covered in earlier sessions.
Oh, clever. So you can really compare the effects. I'm genuinely curious now what happens when you pull that AI rug out or give it to someone who's been, flexing their own mental muscles.
Yeah, it sets up some really compelling comparisons. And to capture it all, they use those 3 main data collection methods we mentioned.
Right. The EEG for brain activity.
Yep, electrodes on the scalp, measuring cognitive engagement, mental load, that sort of thing.
And the NLP for the essays themselves.
Right, looking at linguistic patterns, specific words or phrases, named entities, how the topics were structured, the nuts and bolts of the text.
And finally, the interviews.
Yeah, after each session, talking to people about how they felt, how satisfied they were, and crucially, how much ownership they felt over what they wrote.
That sense of ownership seems really key.
It turned out to be very revealing.
So with all that data, the big questions were, did the essays actually look different? Did the brains act differently? And what about things like memory and that sense of ownership, especially over time with the LLM?
Those were the core questions, yes.
Okay, the stage is set. Let's dive into those brainwaves. What did the EEG actually show?
Okay, yeah, the EGG results, they showed a really clear trend in brain connectivity. It tells quite a story about how our brains adapt or maybe don't adapt when external help is there.
A clear trend. What was it?
What's really striking is that the brain's overall activity, its connectivity, systematically scaled down with the amount of external support.
Scaled down, meaning less activity.
Less widespread, coordinated activity,
Yeah.
yeah. The brain-only group
Yeah.
consistently showed the strongest, most wide-ranging neural networks being active.
Okay. They were doing all the work themselves. Makes sense.
Right. The search engine group was intermediate, kind of in the middle.
And the LLM group.
They elicited the weakest overall brain coupling, the least interconnected activity.
Wow. So that's the big picture. The more the AI helps, the less kind of interconnected your brain activity is during the task.
That's a good way to put it. Less of the brain seems to be doing the integrated heavy lifting.
So if the overall activity is scaled down, what about specific brain waves? Like, I know different waves are linked to different mental states. Let's start with the alpha band. Isn't that linked to creativity, internal focus?
It is, yeah. Alpha is often associated with that internal creative flow, semantic processing, basically.
Yeah.
Your brain generating and connecting ideas from its own internal library.
And what did they find there?
A really significant difference. The brain-only group showed much stronger alpha band connectivity, especially in brain areas crucial for pulling up meanings for creative idea generation.
So their brains were really busy making connections internally.
Actively generating, combining ideas from memory. You could think of it like they were building this complex mental landscape totally from scratch.
Okay. And the LLM group.
Much lower alpha connectivity, much lower. It strongly suggests the AI was offloading a big chunk of that creative burden. Less need for the user's brain to generate those semantic links internally.
So for you listening, this could mean less independent brainstorming, less active construction of your own understanding when the AI is like doing that initial heavy lifting for you.
That's a crucial implication, yes.
What about the beta band then? That's more about active processing, focused attention when you're really engaged, right?
Right. Beta is often linked to that active mental engagement, focus, even the motor control involved in, say, typing.
Any differences there?
The brain-only group still had a slight edge here, reflecting that sustained cognitive effort in actually composing the essay. They were, deeply involved.
Okay.
The search engine group, interestingly, their beta activity seemed more centered on integrating the external information they were finding, like processing visual input from search results.
Makes sense. They're pulling stuff in from outside.
Exactly. And the LLM group, they actually showed stronger outflow from motor-related brain regions,
Motor regions, like for typing.
possibly reflecting just the physical act, the procedural fluency of typing prompts interacting with the AI interface.
So it suggests maybe the LLM group was active, but their brain activity was more about operating the tool rather than deeply grappling with the ideas themselves.
That's a very plausible interpretation of the beta findings, yeah. More procedural, less deep cognitive engagement with the content itself.
Okay, next up, theta band. I hear that one's really important for working memory, executive control, like juggling information.
It absolutely is. Theta is a key indicator of cognitive load, especially on working memory. And those executive functions, planning, organizing, managing multiple streams of thought to complete a complex task, like writing.
And the results here must have been different.
Hugely different. The brain-only group. Significantly higher theta connectivity. Just way more activity.
Meaning a heavier load on their working memory.
A much greater cognitive load, yeah. Their brains were working hard, actively coordinating all the pieces, the ideas, the language, structuring sentences, maintaining focus, all in real time.
Okay, really taxing those executive functions.
Definitely. Now, the LLM group, significantly lowered theta connectivity.
Definitely less load.
Consistent with a reduced working memory burden. The AI was essentially providing a scaffold for the writing process. The user just didn't have to juggle as many mental elements simultaneously.
And the search engine group.
Also weaker theta than brain-only, suggesting that even just having the internet available reduces some of that intense internal coordination needed.
So if your brain isn't doing as much of that complex juggling, that coordination, I mean, it probably feels easier at the time, right?
Whoa, almost certainly. Less mental strain.
But the question is, are you actually building those mental muscles for coordinating complex thoughts if the tool is lessening the load so much?
That's the core question this research raises. It points towards potentially less development of those crucial executive functions.
Okay, one more band. Delta. What's that associated with?
Delta is often linked to deeper processing, executive monitoring, large-scale integration. Think of it as the brain's overall conductor, making sure all the different neural networks are working together efficiently for a complex task.
The big picture integration.
Exactly.
Mm.
And again, the brain-only group showed dominance here, particularly in those executive monitoring networks. It indicates a widespread recruitment of brain resources for the task of writing completely unassisted.
Like the conductor leading the full orchestra.
A great analogy. Lots of different brain regions firing and coordinating. The LLM group, conversely, had the weakest overall delta activity.
Weakest again.
Yeah. Consistent with the more narrow focus, or maybe an engagement that's more anchored to the external tool rather than broad internal integration.
So less like a full orchestra, maybe more like following a backing track.
Or maybe just conducting a smaller section, yeah.
Mm.
It suggests the unassisted writing really pushes your brain to integrate information across wider networks,
Yeah.
leading to potentially deeper processing.
So let's try to connect all these brainwave findings to the bigger picture for, for you listening.
Okay.
It seems pretty clear. Writing without assistance, just using your brain, it really drives your brain to form stronger, more integrated connections. It reflects a higher cognitive load, sure, but also deeper creative processing.
That's what the neural evidence strongly suggests.
But using AI assistants, like ChatGPT in this case, seems to reduce that overall neural connectivity. It shifts how information flows, makes the task feel easier,
Definitely feels easier, according to the theta results.
but maybe with less deep engagement from your own brain.
That's the critical trade-off highlighted by the EEG data. Less strain, but perhaps less deep learning and consolidation too.
Okay, so the brain scans tell one part of the story, but what about the output, the essays themselves? And what did the participants say about the experience?
Right, moving beyond the brainwaves. The essays and the interviews revealed some equally compelling and sometimes quite different insights. Let's talk about ownership first.
Ownership. Like, who did they feel wrote the essay?
Exactly. Whose ideas are they anyway? And this turned out to be a really critical finding, pointing to a deeper psychological impact.
Okay, what do they find?
The brain-only group, almost unanimous. They claimed full ownership. I think it was 16 out of 18 in the first session, and by the third session, it was 18 out of 18. Perfect score.
Wow.
And they said things like they enjoyed using their brain only for this experience. They liked the autonomy.
So a real sense of pride and connection to what they created themselves.
Absolutely. Now contrast that sharply with the LLM group.
How were they?
Much more fragmented, conflicted feelings about authorship. Some did claim full ownership, surprisingly, but others flat out denied it. And many gave partial credit, like, oh, maybe I wrote 70%, the AI did 30%, or even 50-50.
A real mix.
A real mix. And one participant even explicitly said it feels like cheating.
That's telling. A diminished sense of, what, cognitive agency? Like they weren't fully in control.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. And the search engine group, they were somewhere in the middle again. More stable ownership than the LLM group, but still less certainty than brain only. They often reported partial authorship, too, maybe 70, 90%, because they were mixing their own thoughts with things they found online.
Okay, so that feeling of mine versus borrowed or co-created really differed. If you don't fully feel like you own the ideas, I wonder how deeply you actually internalize them.
That's a fantastic question, and it leads right into the next big finding. Memory.
Memory. How did they test that?
They asked participants if they could provide a direct quote from the essay they had just written.
Oh, okay. But a direct test of encoding. Could they recall their own words?
Exactly. And the difference here was stark. Really stark.
How so?
The LLM group, their ability was significantly impaired. In the very first session, 83%, that's 5 out of 6, failed to give a correct quote. And 0 participants produced a fully correct quote.
0. Wow. Even though they just wrote it.
Even though they just wrote it, assisted by the AI. And this poor performance persisted throughout the study. One LLM user even commented that the long sentences generated by the AI made it hard to memorize.
Interesting. So the AI style might have even hindered memory. What about the other groups?
The search engine and brain-only groups. Much, much better. They showed strong quoting abilities, and by the second session, they were getting near-perfect recall.
Near perfect.
Yeah. And this correlates directly with that stronger brain connectivity we saw earlier in those groups, especially in areas linked to memory and coding.
Okay, this seems like a really critical takeaway for anyone using these tools for learning. The convenience of AI might come at a direct cost to your actual memory retention.
It certainly looks that way based on this study. Less effortful processing seemed to lead to less durable memory traces.
What about the essays themselves? Did they, read differently? You mentioned NLP analysis.
They did. There were fascinating patterns in essay, homogeneity and style.
Homogeneity. Meaning they were all kind of similar.
Statistically similar, yes.
Hmm.
The LLM group's essays showed significantly less variation, less deviation in things like word length variability, the use of named entities, common phrases, or n-grams.
And how did human readers perceive this? Did they have teachers evaluate them?
They did, and the human teachers consistently felt these LLM-assisted essays were, and these are their words, soulless, empty, lacking personal nuances.
Soulless, ouch.
Yeah, they felt the essays often used standard ideas and reoccurring typical formulations. The teachers could actually detect a distinctive writing style they associated with the LLMs.
Whereas the brain-only group.
Their essays showed strong variability, much more individuality. They were distinguishable from one another.
What about those named entities you mentioned? Specific names, places.
Interesting pattern there, too. The LLM essays use the most specific named entities. Things like Paulo Freire or RSD. Specific examples, likely pulled directly from the AI's training data.
Okay.
The search engine group used about half as many specific NERs. And the brain-only group, they used 60% fewer overall compared to the LLM group. And their usage was more evenly distributed, less clustered around very specific examples.
Suggesting different ways of finding or generating supporting detail.
Exactly. And then looking at n-grams, those common sequences of words.
Yeah. What did they reveal?
Well, the LLM essays showed a bias towards certain structures, like using third-person forms more often, and specific recurring phrases like choose career.
Choose career.
Whereas the brain-only essays used more unique phrases, things that seem to reflect deeper, more idiosyncratic internal processing. Phrases like true happy or benefit other.
More personal, maybe.
Seemed that way. And there were topic-specific biases, too. For the essay on philanthropy, the search engine group heavily used n-grams related to homeless.
Why homeless?
Probably because that's what surfaced prominently in their Google searches at the time. Search trends influencing the content.
The filter bubble effect, maybe.
Could be. Meanwhile, the LLM group, for the same topic, focused more on n-grams related to giving.
Different angles surfaced by different tools.
Right. And overall, it tells us the LLM output was more predictable, more generic, while the unassisted human writing was richer, more varied, more clearly reflecting distinct internal thought processes.
This leads to a really interesting point you touched on, the human teachers versus an AI judge. Can AI even judge AI effectively?
That's a huge question this study bumps up against.
Huh.
The human teachers, as we said, consistently gave the LLM essays lower scores for uniqueness and content. They value that individuality.
But the AI judge
Scored them higher, consistently higher, average of 4 out of 5 for uniqueness and quality.
Yeah.
And here's the real kicker. The AI judge failed to recognize consistent stylistic elements from the same human participant across different essays written without AI.
Wait, it couldn't tell the same person wrote multiple essays.
It struggled with that, yes, which is quite unsettling. It suggests the AI might be optimizing for certain superficial markers of quality that don't align with what humans value as authentic or unique.
A fundamental disconnect in evaluating creativity, maybe.
It certainly raises that possibility. And it ties into the idea of echo chambers and bias.
How so?
Well, if LLMs give you these very synthesized, often singular feeling responses, does that subtly discourage you from thinking laterally, from seeking out alternative perspectives? Does it reinforce certain dominant ideas?
Potentially trapping you in a narrower viewpoint without you realizing it.
Could be. And search engines have their own issues with filter bubbles, like we saw with the homeless example. The study shows how these external tools aren't neutral. They actively shape the information you encounter and potentially the thoughts you form.
Okay, this is all fascinating, but now I really want to get to that session 4 reveal. The twist.
Ah, yes, the switcheroo.
What happened when the tools changed? Did the brains just snap back? Or was there a lasting effect from how they'd been working before?
This is where the concept of cognitive debt really comes into focus. Let's start with the LLM to brain group. These are the folks who used AI for 3 sessions and then had it taken away.
Okay, the cold turkey group. What happened to their brains?
Their neural connectivity, the EEG showed, remained weaker. There was an underengagement, particularly in those alpha and beta networks we talked about, the ones for internal creativity and active processing.
So even without the AI, their brains weren't firing up as much as the people who never used it.
Exactly. Compared to their own earlier AI-assisted sessions, and especially compared to the brain-only group, their brains showed less coordinated effort. It was like their brains had gotten used to, well, coasting, and didn't fully re-engage when the support was removed.
A kind of cognitive underperformance.
That's a good term for it. And behaviorally.
The memory test. How did they do on quoting themselves now, without AI?
Still significantly impaired. In that final session, session 4, a full 78% failed to quote anything correctly from the essay they just wrote without AI, and only 11% gave a fully correct quote.
Still struggling massively with recall, even when writing on their own.
Yes, which strongly suggests that the way they encoded information during the earlier AI sessions was quite shallow. It didn't stick.
Wow.
And another interesting thing, they often reuse specific engrams, specific phrases from their previous LLM-assisted sessions.
So they were recalling the AI's phrasing, not generating their own.
It suggests they were leaning on the memory of the model's output, focusing on a narrower set of ideas, showing repetition. All indicators of that potential cognitive debt. They hadn't fully internalized the concepts themselves.
It's like they remembered the structure or the sound of the AI's help, but not the actual substance they were supposed to be learning or expressing.
Precisely. But there was this one really profound comment from a participant in this group. They said, I think this essay without ChatGPT is written better than the one with ChatGPT. In terms of completion, ChatGPT is better. But in terms of detail, the essay from session 4 is better for me.
Whoa, an aha moment for them, realizing that maybe the AI helped finish it faster, but their own unassisted work had more depth or detail to them.
Exactly. It captures that trade-off perfectly. Perceived efficiency versus perhaps deeper, more meaningful personal engagement.
Okay, so that's the LLM to brain group. What about the flip side, the brain to LLM group, the ones who started with just their brains and then got the AI tool?
Very different story here. When they first encountered the LLM in session 4,
Yeah. What happened in their brains?
they experienced a network-wide spike in brain connectivity across all frequency bands.
A spike. More activity, not less.
Much more activity initially. The researchers suggest this reflects the cognitive effort of integrating the AI's suggestions with their own existing, well-formed knowledge base.
So because they already had a strong foundation.
Exactly. Because they'd done the hard cognitive work in the first 3 sessions, using the AI wasn't just passive acceptance. It triggered more complex interactions, visual processing of the suggestions, memory recall of their own ideas, strategically deciding what to incorporate. It was more like active task switching or integration, which is demanding.
So instead of the AI replacing their thinking, it acted more like a catalyst for a more complex cognitive process, combining internal and external inputs.
That seems to be what the brain data suggests for this group, yes.
And behaviorally, their quoting ability.
Much, much higher. 78% provided correct quotes from the essays they wrote with the LLM in session 4.
So using the AI didn't hurt their memory encoding.
It seems not, or at least not nearly as much. The interpretation is that their initial unaided effort in the first sessions built strong, durable memory traces. This allowed them to then use the LLM more strategically in session 4.
Like they could evaluate the AI's suggestions against their own solid understanding rather than just taking them wholesale.
Exactly. They weren't just passively copying. They were actively engaging with the tool, leveraging it against their existing knowledge,
Right.
using it as a tool to enhance their thinking, not as a crutch to replace it.
Okay, so the big takeaway from session 4 seems really clear then.
What's your take?
Well, it seems like prior experience really matters. How you've used or not used AI before really shapes how your brain reacts when the situation changes.
Prior AI use modulates the brain's trajectory. That's a key phrase from the study.
Right. If you've consistently offloaded the thinking to AI, taking it away reveals this under-engagement, this cognitive debt.
The networks don't just snap back immediately.
But if you've built that strong cognitive foundation yourself through your own effort,
Then you might be in a much better position to integrate AI tools strategically, effectively, without necessarily sacrificing that deep engagement.
it sounds like having that strong mental foundation lets you truly master the tool rather than letting the tool kind of master you.
That's a very powerful way to put it, and I think it captures the essence of the session 4 findings beautifully.
So let's zoom out. We've gone through the experiment, the brain waves, the essays, the big session 4 reveal. What does all of this mean for you listening right now? Why does this deep dive into your brain on ChatGPT actually matter outside the lab?
Well, it brings up this really important question for all of us, doesn't it? Are we, maybe unknowingly, accumulating cognitive debt by habitually offloading our thinking to AI?
Cognitive debt. That phrase from the study title, what does that mean in practice?
It means that this repeated reliance on external systems, like LLMs, can start to replace those effortful cognitive processes. The critical thinking, the creative struggle, the memory consolidation work.
And the consequence?
Potentially could lead to diminished critical inquiry, maybe decreased creativity over the long run, and perhaps even increased vulnerability to manipulation or misinformation if we become passive consumers rather than active constructors of knowledge.
Your brain needs the workout, basically. And if the AI takes away the workout.
It also takes away the opportunity for growth, for strengthening those cognitive muscles.
And the study did show that, right? A likely decrease in learning skills for the LLM group over the 4 months.
Yes, across the board. Neural patterns, linguistic analysis of their writing, even the subjective scoring. The trend suggested that the convenience of the AI came at a measurable cognitive cost. It impacted how deeply they seemed to learn and retain the information.
Okay, and you mentioned something else earlier, sort of a side note, but maybe relevant to the cost idea, about energy use.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's a surprising fact, but relevant to the bigger picture. Did you know that a typical LLM query uses roughly 10 times more energy than a traditional Google search query?
10 times?
Yeah, the estimates are around zero point 0.3 watt-hours for an LLM query versus about 0.03 watt-hours for a search query.
So this isn't just about the cost to our individual brains. There's a broader environmental or resource cost to relying heavily on these complex models, too.
It adds another layer to the conversation about the trade-offs involved, definitely.
So this whole deep dive, it really highlights a fundamental trade-off, doesn't it?
It seems so.
On the one hand, AI offers amazing efficiency, personalization. It can scaffold tasks.
Absolutely, the potential benefits are huge.
But on the other hand, this study strongly suggests it might inadvertently hinder that deep cognitive processing, that authentic engagement, that feeling of ownership and true understanding.
Knowledge isn't just about accessing information, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's most valuable when it's deeply understood, internalized, and can be applied flexibly.
So for you, the learner, listening to this,
It really means thinking carefully, thoughtfully, about when and how you choose to use these incredibly powerful tools.
it's not about never using them.
Not necessarily, but the study suggests that maybe that full-on neural engagement, the kind you get from struggling through something on your own, might be particularly crucial during the early phases of learning something new.
To build that solid foundation.
Exactly. To develop those robust cognitive networks first. Then perhaps AI support can be brought in more strategically for later, maybe more routine tasks, or to augment and enhance that understanding you've already built.
It reminds me of learning math, maybe. You need to struggle through the problems yourself first before using a calculator to speed things up.
That's a great analogy. You need to build the conceptual understanding through effort before you leverage the tool for efficiency. The power of your own brain to think, create, connect ideas, that's irreplaceable. AI should ideally amplify that power, not replace it entirely.
So here's the final provocative thought for you to mull over. As these LLMs become even more powerful, even more integrated into everything we do, work, learning, life,
Which seems inevitable.
how do we design our environments? How do we structure our learning and our work to actually harness the benefits of AI without accidentally, diminishing our own capacity for critical thinking, for creativity, for that genuine intellectual autonomy?
Yeah, what unique, deeply internalized insights will you continue to cultivate? The kind of understanding that an AI can maybe only simulate or synthesize, but not truly possess.
It really encourages you to reflect on your own habits, doesn't it? How you use AI, how you use search tools.
Definitely.
So what does this research inspire you to explore next about your own cognitive habits and your relationship with these increasingly capable technologies?